Hi, this video was filmed a while ago. I didn't have time to edit it, so here it is now. When I was cleaning out my room to move and get all my stuff together, I found a few floppy disks, and I had no idea what was on this one. So I decided to paint over it. I don't know why I got that idea, but I've been using Posca pens on a bunch of random stuff, and they work pretty well. Um, Unfortunately, the green Posca pen that I used at the very start didn't work that well on the plastic of the floppy disk because it would dry really patchy. So instead of going over it again and again with the Posca pen, I decided to use gouache instead. I did have this idea with using the little metal plate on top because it turns to side to side to have like that incorporated into the design, but unfortunately when I put the gouache over it, it sealed it shut, and I was scared that I will ruin the rest of it if I try to open it, so I just left that alone. So here I am painting something on it. I wasn't really comfortable with painting anything too elaborate on this because it's pretty small and I wasn't sure how well the paint will handle being on the floppy disk. It actually, like, gouache reactivates really easily in general. This is the designer gouache by Winsor & Newton, but this one, like, it never reactivated this easily on paper. If I went over the same spot twice, it would just reactivate the paint underneath, and the colors would go together and make this greeny, mushy thing. So, it was a challenge, but it was really fun. I used Posca pens later on. As you can see here, I outlined the hair and stuff. It was just easier to use something with a finer point, especially that I don't have a brush that is quite as fine as I needed, so I was just using Posca pens for details. And for, anything that needed that light touch. Yeah, and I have to say it was a really fun experiment. And I would definitely recommend doing something a little crazy to everybody once in a while. I was going for this kind of a concept of, since I couldn't do something too elaborate, I decided to draw people, a girl. This is usually what I do. And I just wanted to make her seem like, some kind of a hacker kind of a figure, although it doesn't really translate that well. She only has glasses and that is kind of it. But, you don't need to be somebody to be able to work on a computer. Like, you don't need to look a certain way. So, yeah. The gouache needs a lot more layers than it usually does. Usually it's pretty opaque, but I think it's mainly because it wasn't drying properly. And it was drying, like, I was trying to use thin layers so it dries quickly, but then it reactivated. You can actually kind of see the green through the hair even still, and I did many, many layers on that. So that was a bit unfortunate. But overall, I'm really happy with the piece, although it took a lot longer than I ever expected it to. The footage is almost 2 hours long, and it's a very simple thing, but it's mainly because I had to wait for it to dry so much, and because I had to layer things up several times and then wait for it to dry and then layer it up again. So here I am just painting her hair again, and the paint seemed thick enough when I was applying it, but then when it dried, it turned slightly more green with the background, and that was kind of the cycle. I don't know if that's the fault of the Posca pen that's underneath all of it, or if it's just gouache on plastic doesn't really work. I do have, I believe, one more floppy disk at least. So if you guys want to see something else being done with a floppy disk, I would be totally open for suggestions since, it's something different, and if needed, I can always buy more floppy disks, which you'll be surprised you can actually get them really cheap online. I don't know if they're just like leftovers or if they are still being produced. I know that when I was in primary school, back in like 2005, we actually were taught how to use floppy disks in school, and we had like a computer class. And we were shown how to save things onto a floppy disk, how to use them in general, which is crazy because I know that that was actually the kind of the turning point where we started using CDs instead. But I grew up in Poland, and the technology advances that are now didn't really come to Poland as easily as it did with a lot of the Western countries. So we actually still used floppy disks when I was in primary school, probably around fourth class in primary school. I'm 21 now, so that's 2007, 2006. I don't really want to count right now. So, floppy disks were still a thing when I was a kid, which is not something that a lot of people can say nowadays. Young people in general. Because I know that I have friends who have never used floppy disks, even though they are like a year or two older than me, just because we grew up in different places. Yeah. And I have really fond memories of learning like my very first thing with a floppy disk. I couldn't tell you anything about it now because it's been many, many years, but it was a cool experience, and it was like one of my first things that I've done on a computer in general. And it was to do with this floppy disk. Well, not this specific floppy disk, but with a floppy disk. I think I have the other floppy disk that I have actually has a Windows 98 update on it. I believe it's not even the official one. It just has my dad's handwriting on it, so I don't really know where it came from or what really is on it, because it might have just been repurposed. But yeah. I hope you enjoy the rest of the speed paint. I'll stop talking about floppy disks and getting nostalgic. So I will see you in another video, and I hope you enjoyed it, because I enjoyed making this, and I love making weird things if I can. So if you have any ideas what I could do with a floppy disk, because I have one more at least, please let me know, because it is always interesting to experiment with art. And I could paint on it, I could do something with it, maybe some kind of a different project. I'm open to suggestions, and I'll see you later. Bye.